So we are here today with Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, the CEO of Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange. Hello, CZ. It's an honor to have you here with us today.
Hi, Paulo. It's a great. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. So before we jump to projections for 2022, I'd like to give a step back and just ask you about 2021, which has become another important year for Bitcoin and crypto. We all know this was a rally mainly fueled by institutional adoption, but do you see, how do you see the role of macroeconomic scenario in this?
Yeah, I think we've seen tremendous growth for crypto in the 2021. Even though 2021 wasn't a great year overall, I think there's so many random things that happened. But for crypto, I think we've seen tremendous growth. I think Bitcoin was near like $10,000 at the beginning of the year. And now it's 50, 60,000. We've also seen like coins like BNB grown 10x over in the year, and many other coins as well. So overall, I think crypto have grown a lot. When prices grow, it actually does mean that more people have joined in the crypto space. We've also seen NFTs take off. So NFTs becoming really popular, maybe even too popular sometimes. Is maybe a bit too crazy. We also seen DeFi continue to grow. We also seen GameFi taking off this year, and we also seen SocialFi and other innovations taking off. So I think all of these things are great. Yeah, so I think overall, I actually don't really think it's just institutional investors. I think we've seen growth on the institution side as well as on the retail side. So yeah, I think everything's growing this year, which is fantastic.
And how do you see the macroeconomic scenario, all the inflation concerns and the stimulus by the US government and other governments playing the role into this? How do they fit in this equation?
I think all of them contribute to this. Well, all of them are part of the equation of the overall global economic equation, and Bitcoin is a small part in this equation actually. But when you have significant quantitative easing over the last 2 years, and then we are now seeing inflation everywhere, people migrate to a hard asset, which is limited supply and cannot be minted more. So I think crypto fits that a savings type of asset, hard asset type of category. So now we're seeing people flock into this. So I think the overall macroeconomics definitely have an impact on how fast people come in. So I think we're just seeing that, look, as you said, institutions, we're seeing that treasury managers at very large companies like MicroStrategy and other companies, they understand this now. So they're flocking in.
Great. So, well, some say the reduction of monetary stimulus by the US has already been absorbed by the market at current prices. Do you agree with it? Do you think that the impact of macroeconomics in Bitcoin, how would it be in 2022?
No, I don't think it's been absorbed at all. I think, well, basically, when you print like 30 to 40% more money within 1 or 2 years, and those money are only circulating to a very small number of players in the industry, that's used to bail out, large companies, large banks, etc. Then those money doesn't necessarily flow into every part of the economy in the same instantaneously. It typically takes a couple of years for that to flow through. But we are seeing that some of that effects happening because now there is complaint about corporate greed, which basically means that now like everything costs more. Now they're blaming it on the corporations, which I don't really have a judgment on that, but I think it does take years for that effect to come in, and I think we're just seeing the beginning of that.
Well, talking about beginning, you said in a recent interview that when you first learned about Bitcoin was like discovering the internet before the 90s. What about the people that are getting to crypto today? In what year are we compared to internet adoption for you?
I think we should be somewhere around the 1995, 98, or maybe even 2000-ish. So I think Google started in 1995, Google started in 1998. Yeah, Amazon also started in 97, 98. Yahoo started in 1995. So I think we started 4 years ago, and I think many of the companies that started early may or may not have done well, but many companies still have not started. Today, if we look at adoption, I think we're somewhere around 5% adoption, meaning that out of the 8 billion people in the world, probably only 400 million have some kind of crypto. But 400 million is a large number. It's probably larger than the fifth most popular, or maybe probably even fourth most populous nation on the world. So, but now we have a real population of people in crypto, but we're still at the beginning. I think we're still 5%. So we still have 20x to go for everyone having some kind of crypto. And within this 5%, only a small portion of that net worth is in crypto for most people. Very few people are like me, like 100% in crypto. So I think it will take a while for us to get there. So we're still early.
Yeah, and what about next year? How do you see adoption growing in the next year or so? And is the price of Bitcoin expected to go along as well?
Well, the adoption, Bitcoin is a limited supply. So the more people who use it, necessarily the price have to increase to the market cap of Bitcoin have to increase to represent the net worth or the value that's being exchanged or used by all those people. So as long as more people are coming in and using, as long as there are more use cases and it's more, it has to represent more people's wealth and more use cases of wealth. Yeah, so I think it will continue to grow. And yeah, so yeah.
And what about El Salvador? It's a great case of adoption. Do you think that other countries might do the same as they did?
I absolutely think so. I think it's a fantastic move by El Salvador, and it takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of foresight and a lot of guts and a lot of strength to. There's various different pressure points. There's various different pushbacks. But I think if we look back 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we will see the economic benefits that El Salvador will enjoy by using a much stronger currency. It's a much better form of money. It's a much harder currency. They are no longer subject to inflations, quantitative easing, and other. They're also no longer subject to other countries affecting the economy as much. At the same time, this is a global currency. Now their citizens can transact and trade globally with a lot of ease. So I think given that, we will see the El Salvador economy develop quite rapidly. And using Bitcoin is an important part of it. But I think just the fact that the economy will improve when you have a president of this magnitude, when you have a president that's young, that's aggressive, that understands the economies, and that's also selfless. So I think all of those things, in addition to Bitcoin, will also help. But I think we will see that the people using a stronger currency will develop a stronger economy.
Well, the world is kind of paying attention to what's actually happening there, and treating it like an experiment. But what do you think must happen there to make it a success, and just to encourage other countries to do the same?
So I think the more innovation that's encouraged locally, the better. I think that in addition to adopting Bitcoin, they should take an open stance and welcome as many crypto companies to go there as possible, having attractive packages for enterprises or crypto industry to go there, so that we can build tools for the local economy, and we can build tools that's easy to use, that's also safe. So I think that's really important. Being the pioneer for a country to do this, education is really important. I think multiple educational efforts needs to be done, and then and also working closely with industry players to shape the regulatory framework there. So I think all of those things are important. But I think we see a lot of that happening already. So I'm pretty confident about that situation.
Great. So talking a little bit more about the trends, we saw a lot of trends in crypto in 2021. You already talked about some of them, some of DeFi, NFTs, play to earn games, and finally the metaverse. Do you see these gaining more traction in 2022?
Absolutely. I think quite a lot more of them will continue to get traction. I think the pace of innovation in this field, in this industry, is phenomenal. And on top of that, given we're in the cryptocurrency space, fundraising is much easier using blockchain globally. Either ICOs, REOs, etc. You can issue a coin. Most projects, because of that, most projects are well funded. There's not really a shortage of money in this space. So we now, because of that, we're also now seeing like very top talent from traditional internet industries or financial industries joining the space. So I think the funding, the talent, and the pace of innovation is all there. In the short term, we may see market fluctuations on price of tokens or coins. That's just normal market behavior. That's just normal market properties. But I think the amount of innovation will continue, and we'll see more and more users come in.
And what other trends are already in your radar that other investors should also take a look into?
To be honest, it's not very clear. I think I listed most of them. There are many things like even SocialFi is still early. Social finance, SocialFi is a little bit early stage. Metaverse is quite early stage. There, GameFi is there, but GameFi is going through ups and downs. Axel Infinity did really well, but other gaming projects that use too heavy of a subsidy, sometimes we see a crash in some of those projects. So there are plus and minuses in the industry, but overall the industry is trending up. Other trends, I'm not so sure, to be honest. I'm not a very good predictor of trends. Actually, I'm not a good predictor of anything. But when trends develop, we try to follow and we try to contribute to them.
Well, you said recently also that you're not a trader yourself, although you run a trading company. But would you recommend that people that are not that don't know about trading much, that they just hold their crypto, and you know that to surf those trends is not that easy, but people just try to find the leading ones, which in a time it's just the beginning of the race, so it's very hard to do it. What would you recommend to those kind of people?
Yeah, so I would say by and large, for most people, if you're not a trader in the traditional stock world, don't try to become a trader in the crypto world right away. That's generally, but I want to be careful with that generalization, because there are many people who are very smart, who could be good traders, who does not have access to the financial industry. They don't have the proper KYC, or they don't have the proper access. They don't live in the US, they don't live in a developed world. They're not deemed as accredited investor, etc. If you don't have trading experience outside of crypto, don't come into crypto thinking that you're the best trader in the world. Instead, just buy and hold would be my recommendation. If you don't do FX trading using your local currency versus US dollars, then you don't necessarily have to trade crypto. Just by owning crypto doesn't mean you have to trade it. Many people hold it for many years, and those are some of the people who gain the most. There is a very small group of people who could be good traders, and even for those, we don't know who they are. You don't know you are that until you try. For those, even if you want to try trading, trade with very small amounts first. Trade with less than 1% of your net worth first for like 3 months, 6 months, a year, until you're comfortable with it, you are making money with it, and then use 2%, use 5%, use 10%, slowly increase over many years. I would say within the first 5 years, don't trade more than like 10% of your net worth. So that would be my recommendation for most people. But again, this kind of generic advices are very dangerous, or very easy to be misleading. But I think for the majority, it's a safe recommendation. Whereas if you're really smart, if you're a really good trader, you will typically know yourself, and you can take more risks.
Great. Well, newcomers also seem to be increasingly worried about regulation, of course. And how do you see the discussions on regulation panning out this year? In your opinion, can investors expect a clearer look of a more broad regulatory framework in 2022?
I think overall regulations are developing much faster now in the crypto industry, for the crypto industry, and I think it's going to be an ongoing process for many years or many decades, maybe even centuries. I think today we're still in the process where the regulators are just starting to look at this industry, and then they're just starting to see how can we regulate different aspects of the industry. And they're really only looking at a very narrow subset of the industry, which is the centralized exchanges. So in different countries, there's different regulatory frameworks. And most of the regulatory frameworks for crypto are bolt-ons onto the existing financial regulations. Some of them put into the payment services, some of them put into money transmission, some of them put into banking. And very few countries have an independent crypto regulatory framework, which I think we kind of need, actually, because crypto is different from traditional financials. The first logical step is to borrow from existing financial regulations into the crypto space and use that, and then evolve from that. So I think we're still at that first stage. And within the space, there's the centralized exchanges which regulators are looking at. There's DeFi, which only a few regulators are talking about it, but there's no published framework on how to regulate DeFi, and it's a very tricky question to how to regulate that anyway. There's NFTs, nothing. There's fan tokens. There's there's SocialFi. There's metaverse. Like there's a few regulation on those things, and the industry is still evolving at a breakneck speed. And so we're only seeing like regulations in a subset of the sector. Within the centralized exchanges, currently, because the regulations are borrowed from banking industries, they're really only concerned about KYC and AML, which is very important, which is hugely important. But very few regulators are talking about listing frameworks. How do you do a security, wallet management? How do you handle customer support? How do you handle customer disputes? In which situations should you compensate, not compensate? In which situations the business responsibility? In which situations are the user's responsibility? And how do you do marketing? What type of marketing is allowed? What type of marketing is deemed as Ponzi schemes, etc.? So all of these things are not really talked about today in regulatory frameworks, and I think they should be incorporated. But look, it's a new industry, it will take time, and we are here to work with regulators through all of those issues, and even hopefully outside of centralized exchanges, because we also have projects, we also invest very heavily in DeFi, in the decentralized world. So we want to, so I think we're still at a very early stage.
Yeah, well, this year we talked a lot about China, right? It was kind of banned crypto twice this year. First mining, and then recently exchange business. What is there left for China to ban in 2022?
I think there's still a lot left. China is probably one of the pioneers of central bank digital currencies. So what they call the DCEP, digital currency, like DCEP. Yeah. So so they are in fact embracing blockchain. They did ban miners, and they also banned cryptocurrency exchanges, but the ban on cryptocurrency exchanges is not new. They just reiterated that. In 2017, there was a memo banning cryptocurrency exchanges there. In 2013, they banned e-commerce sites from pricing in Bitcoin. So so China has always been quite strict about crypto. But owning Bitcoin in China is legal. If you own some Bitcoin in your wallet, however you bought it, it's perfectly legal. So they did not ban Bitcoin. They also did not ban crypto. They're actually pushing their own digital currency. China have always done this. They banned Facebook, Google, Twitter, Instagram. They banned all of that. And they push their own WeChat, Alipay, etc., which they have been quite successful. I think they're using that same mentality. I'm guessing they're using that same mentality for crypto. So we'll see how well it works. Not sure. I think central bank digital currencies are fundamentally different from native cryptocurrencies, with limited supply, low permissionless, etc. But we'll see how that works out.
Well, the first time China banned something about crypto this year was in May. They banned mining, and then it was like the midterm top of the market. Not so much on the second time, because we didn't see that much of a drop in prices. But do you think the investors should be aware of what China is doing to crypto to try to spot a potential top next year?
No, I don't. I think that's an overly simplistic view of what crypto pricing is all about. China is an influential market and it's a large country, but China doesn't own cryptocurrencies. So China's decision have some impact, but the impact can also be interpreted both positively and negatively. By banning crypto, actually may even force more people to want to use it. And the fact that some countries have to ban crypto means that there's so much demand for it. And also Bitcoin is a technology that's it's a string on your computer or even in your mind that just you hold, and you have access to some Bitcoins. So I think it's not clear that a single action by a single entity will have definite responses to the crypto industry. I think the crypto industry is much larger and much more sophisticated than that. It depends on how many use cases are being adopted, are being used, how many new applications are being built, and how many entrepreneurs are coming into this space, and how many countries like El Salvador is adopting Bitcoin. So there's many different factors. Just one factor doesn't necessarily dictate a price movement in one way or another. And we, as you said, we've seen that in the past. This year, the announcement on the minor part did coincide with a price drop, but we're not sure if a correlation is a causation, right? So we're not sure if Bitcoin price would have dropped regardless of itself. Bitcoin price drops in other times when no countries issue any Bitcoin price drops on days when there's no news. And the second one, the second announcement came out. Actually, I think that was like when that came out, the Bitcoin price was like 20,000 something, 28,000 something. But now no, we're back to 50,000. So it doesn't necessarily mean that particular policies will affect crypto prices. That kind of simplistic view is very dangerous, especially for traders. Don't trade with such a simplistic model.
Great. So about back to Latin America, back to where we are here in Brazil. Latin America seems to be leading the way in terms of regulation, at least compared to the US, not only because of El Salvador, of course, but Brazil, for example. Brazil has two spot Bitcoin ETFs. We have a new bill that further regulates crypto and recently passed in Congress, and it's closer to become an actual law. Usually Latin America countries follow US on regulatory innovation, but do you think that these might indicate that this time it could be the other way around?
It totally could be. I think there's a number of reasons. Well, it totally could be that other countries can overtake US and lead this regulatory frameworks, or even just overall crypto innovation, or just in the future of fintech industry, and also potentially the future of economy. Smaller countries can move faster by default. The US is a large country and also a large government. There's so many different agencies, etc. And then they necessarily will have more discussions, more debates, different people holding different views. And US is a democratic country, so this kind of debates will take time. And we're still seeing very clear different views in the government, in different agencies, etc. About cryptos. Some think the regulators for securities thinks it's a security. The regulators for commodities thinks it's a commodity. So we're seeing those kind of discussions going on. Whereas in smaller countries, in countries where the voice is more unified, or a leader takes a strong view, and for example, in El Salvador, the leader took a very strong view, and they can move much faster. The second consideration for US is they may want to protect the US dollars to some extent. So because US dollars is a global currency, and it's also a very strong tool for the US to organize the world. And they may not. There is a perception that some people don't want to let that go, which is understandable. But by not letting that go and pushing down crypto, they may be letting go of future fintech, which is probably even more important. So there's different considerations. And but yeah, I do think other countries could move faster. But at the same time, US is not super slow. I'll give you a different. We can't view single regulation as one thing. There's different aspects to regulation. If you look at banking, the US banks actually have the best APIs and have the best support for cryptocurrency exchanges. In the US, a cryptocurrency exchange like Binance US or Coinbase can do automatic deductions from the user's bank account every month. This doesn't exist in most other places, I think. Most other places in the world, the banking support for cryptocurrency exchanges are still quite nascent. So there's different aspects to the regulation or regulatory frameworks. US is actually quite advanced in some areas, but it is slower in terms of the overall framework, I think.
I see. Well, about Brazil, Binance has rapidly become Brazil's largest crypto exchange by trading volume, at least. How do you see the expansion of the market in Brazil and the adoption in the country? What to expect for 2022? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think So I think Brazil is one of those countries with a advanced financial literacy, and it's one of the most advanced economies in Latin, and it's also one of the more influential ones. So I think we just seen that yes, I think our market share there is large, and I think this is a case where the local economies should promote local exchanges to flourish more. Local banks should work with cryptocurrency exchanges more, so that we want to bring the local economy up as well. And in addition to exchanges, we also want to incubate it and help more crypto players like wallets, payment services, decentralized financing, loans, etc. We want to help entrepreneurs. We want to help artists using NFTs. We want to help content creators using NFTs. We want to help game developers using GameFi tokens or play to earn. We want to help e-commerce players. There are large both international and local e-commerce players there. So I think having clear regulatory certainty and clarity is very important. So I think Brazil is a high potential economy, and if this develop at this speed of development, I think it will really help the local economy there. And so I think we want to see it grow.
So at the second semester of 2021, many were expecting Bitcoin to hit $100,000 by the end of the year, which didn't happen. What would you say for those people who were expecting this and will still trying to find a way to get into the market by 2022?
Yeah, so it's extremely difficult to predict the price at a precise time. Based on some of the things I mentioned earlier, there's no single factor to impact price. One, like if Apple comes in and started buying Bitcoin like crazy, then price will go up. If Google comes in, then the price will also go up. If some countries issue some negative news, the price may go down. It's very like there's probably like a million different factors that will impact price. It's basically impossible to calculate them in precise manners. All of those are rough estimates based on a certain method of calculation, if there is. Sometimes people just blurt it out, and nobody knows what the future is. And that's also what makes, and nobody knows what the future price is at a precise point, which also makes this industry much more interesting than traditional financial markets, where one instrument is only traded on one market. Bitcoin is traded on thousands of exchanges all around the world. There's millions of factors impacting its price, and more people are coming in and contributing to it. It's not controlled by a single party. It's very difficult to be predicted by a single party. So yeah, I think that's a beauty for the industry. Don't believe in anybody's predictions. But at the same time, the year's not over. We still got 3 or 4 days. So we'll see if those guys are right or wrong.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Cezir, for joining us today. I believe we'll leave our audience with plenty useful information. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.